What's going on? And welcome back to D+Pad Life. And today I want to talk about the Resident Evil remake. Now, I've been covering all the Resident Evil games on this channel in a discussion series where I'm just talking about my overall thoughts about the games, the good, the bad, and my early experience with the games, a little bit of story time. And if you've been keeping up with the series, you already know that the original PlayStation 1 release of Resident Evil 1 is my absolute favorite in the series. So when I heard a remake was coming out as a kid, man, to say I got excited doesn't do it justice. I was stoked. Now, before we dive any deeper into this, I just want to say if you love Resident Evil content, if you love the Resident Evil series, I highly recommend you subscribe to the channel. As I've already mentioned, I'm covering the entire series in these upcoming videos. And yeah, we're already 3 deep. I've already talked about 1, 2, and 3 on the PS1, and now we're covering their remakes before we proceed on to Code Veronica and Zero. And then obviously we'll continue on from there. So yeah, be sure you subscribe if that sounds fun to you. But continuing forward, I first got exposed to this game in a Game Informer magazine. I remember hearing about the GameCube coming out and the Xbox coming out, and that Resident Evil was getting a remake, and it was a GameCube exclusive. And I knew right then and there that that meant I had to get a Nintendo GameCube. I could not miss out on the Nintendo GameCube if it was going to get a Resident Evil remake as an exclusive. I had to be there for that. But unfortunately, I didn't really have the means to get one. It became very challenging at that time for my family to afford something like a new console. Coming up, we were a little more well off, but at this time, I was in a single parent household, and it was just really tough for my dad to take care of us in that way. And so I had a bunch of siblings, bunch of expenses, and so my birthday was actually going under the radar this year. It was just one of those years where the family wasn't even really wasn't realizing that my birthday was coming up. But I didn't miss out because my older brother was looking out for me. He was at an age at this point where he could work and he could earn some money, and everyone else might have been forgetting my birthday, but he was not. And he went out of his way to get me Resident Evil on the GameCube. But not just that, he got me the GameCube itself. And because of him, I was able to go into that generation playing GameCube games, and most importantly, Resident Evil Remake. I believe my GameCube even came with like a memory card and maybe an extra controller. I could be mistaken on the extra controller, but I'm not sure. But I was blown away. That was one of the coolest moments of my childhood. I really appreciated him doing that. And I got my hands on Resident Evil. Now, what's really funny about that is, truth be told, my initial time and impression of it was like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was very, very cool, right? Like, it was very cool to see a remake, but there was something off about it. There was something about it that just turned me off. And it took a few years for me to really realize what that was, and for me to also just be able to like conquer what that was. And ultimately what it is just the pacing. The game is a little bit more slower. It's a little bit more thoughtful and not sluggish, but yeah, just a little slower than the original. The original's a little snappier. The character models move slower. They've got a more realistic like animation to them and whatnot. The enemies are a little slower. And then not only that, something, very popular with the Resident Evil series back then was backtracking. And this game added a mechanic where you weren't just backtracking to navigate and get through the mansion. You were backtracking to deal with zombies, because there was a new mechanic where after you defeated a zombie, if you did not burn its body, it would resurrect as the more powerful version known as a Crimson Head. And Crimson Heads were no joke, dude. No joke at all. They were very fast, and they could really beat you down and take you out if you weren't careful. And so what this did, though, was take a game that had already slowed itself down compared to the original. Also, they added rooms, so there was more to explore in this version. It took a game like that and then slowed it down even more with slower enemies and added all of this backtracking to having to go and defeat these enemies a second time, or to at least prevent them from coming back a second time. And there's new extra rooms to navigate, like the room you're seeing right there and right here. These are both all new rooms, not found in the original. And so that for me was really challenging. It was challenging to like look past and to deal with, which is interesting. It's interesting that something like that could get in my way at that age. But ultimately, coming back to this game as an adult, I found a whole new level of appreciation for it. I really enjoy this one. I still prefer the original, and that's okay. But this one really is good. It really and truly is good. As you can see, they added a few mechanics, like right here. These are called defense weapons. So if an enemy grabs you and you have a knife or a taser as Jill, or it's a knife and a hand grenade as Chris, you can, instead of taking a hit, you could use your defense weapon. And those are really effective and a really cool mechanic. I definitely like those. The Crimson Head mechanic, I'm still split on. I don't necessarily like it. I don't necessarily like the idea of the zombies coming back and somehow being fast and stronger. I've always had this strong belief that like a zombie is a decaying creature. How in the heck is a decaying creature going to run? Wouldn't its bones like just like shoot out of its rotting flesh if it was to try to like move in that way or put that much weight on its joints? It just never really made much sense to me. But by design, as far as the design of the Crimson Heads go, they do look very cool, and they can be pretty fun to fight, and they are absolutely terrifying. So something I failed to mention in my coverage for the first game was the bosses in this one. The bosses are great, dude. I love the large snake, the yawn. I love Plant 42. I love Neptune the shark, and I absolutely love the final boss, which I won't get into because there could be some people here who have actually never played the games before and aren't necessarily looking for spoilers. So I am trying to keep these pretty spoiler free because I don't feel the need to give you a story synopsis in this. It's just more so just discussing my time with it. These videos are more so intended to get people hyped to try the games, or to get people who have already played these games, just someone to vibe with on like, heck yeah, man, I feel you. I love your energy right now. I like this game too. So yeah, it's interesting. So this is the first one in our discussion series where I've actually got some solid critiques or things I didn't like. I didn't like the slower movement, although it does complement the new look and the new style. So I'm not like mad at that. But the added backtracking of dealing with the Crimson Heads, I almost wish Crimson Heads were a mode you could turn on or off, or like maybe they would be exclusive to hard mode or something like that. For me, it would complement the game more if Crimson Heads weren't actually a part of it. But, you know, it is what it is. It's something that this one does to stand out even more. And ultimately, man, it's a really great remake. In fact, this game is often considered by many gamers as the best remake of any game ever made. Like, I hear it all the time. Resident Evil Remake is the best remake of any game ever made. And this is often also considered the best Resident Evil game, which is really fascinating to me. It does not rank that high for me. In fact, the games we've covered already, I would rank all of them higher than this one, believe it or not. I do really like this one, but I prefer those. So that's kind of interesting. What else? Is there anything else to discuss about Resident Evil Remake? I mean, certainly it continues to do something that I didn't like in the original, which was there's no the scenarios that you play as, whether you're Chris or Jill, they don't complement each other. They don't feed off each other. It's whichever one you play is the canon playthrough, basically. And I'm not a fan of that. I definitely liked Resident Evil 2's approach of complementary playthroughs where you have Leon's path and then you have Claire's path, and they don't really coincide, and you do different things in each, and whatever plot points happen in one person's story happens in the other person's story too. They coincide in that way. That's just not what they did here. And for this remake, they kept it that way, which on one hand I can understand because you're remaking a game, right? But on the other hand, it's like, oh man, it was such a great opportunity to correct that. So I'm actually hoping we get another Resident Evil 1 remake, maybe with this new over-the-shoulder style, where they can do that. They can make changes like that and see how they do that. I think part of the reason that can be challenging is while the mansion is large, it's still one of the most intimate settings of the first original games. And so this idea that Chris and Jill would just like never cross paths on their adventure, it's a little tough to believe. But when you think about it, now that I'm saying it out loud, it's kind of simple because if you played Jill's campaign originally, Chris is nowhere to be found. And so Jill, Barry, and Wesker are observing the mansion at first. So what if Chris makes sure everyone makes it into the mansion to escape the dogs in the beginning, and then he gets left outside because, I don't know, maybe they get a little overrun. He gets a little separated. And what if Chris actually tackles the guardhouse first? And then from there, he goes to the mansion. And then he has to return to the guardhouse. But for Jill, she starts in the mansion, goes to the guardhouse, and then has to return to the mansion. Something like that could be good because the guardhouse also isn't as large as the mansion. And if you're visiting the mansion twice, that would really throw off the timing on who proceeds where when. So then maybe Chris makes it to the basement, the sewers first, and therefore he also reaches the lab first. And you could just kind of play it like that. I would really love to see a version of this plot that works with each playthrough. I think Umbrella Chronicles, actually, now that I think about it, on the Wii, and there was a PS3 port of that, that one may actually offer that. Now that I think about it, I might want to check that out again. It's been a long time since I've played that and revisited that, but it's certainly on the to-do list of something to check out. So yeah, now, man, I'm glad I'm doing this. See, that's one of the cool things about this video. It gets me thinking about this series, is it gets me thinking about stuff like that. And I definitely got to check that out. Umbrella Chronicles is an interesting one too, because I've never actually finished it. And I know they add a whole new like storyline to that game. And then they made that sequel, Dark Side Chronicles, which I too have not played or beaten. And I really, really want to check that out because you get to experience some Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica stuff. And Resident Evil 2 officially has a remake now, right? But it didn't back then, so it was almost like a HD version of the events of the original PlayStation 1 game. So, God, I'd love to check that out. I got a huge smile on my face right now just thinking about it. But in any case, I don't really have much more to say about Resident Evil Remake other than I do highly recommend it because so many other people really, really love this entry. Like I said, for me, it doesn't rank as high as it does for others, but I'm just one person, right? For most people, this is the classic Resident Evil experience, especially now that we have it on these modern consoles. So you can get this Origins collection. Sorry, it's dark in here. I was going for some moody lighting, just trying to experiment with this video series. But you get Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 0, focus, all on one disc here. And that's what we're looking at right now. And this adds a new control style where if you use the D-pad, you'll control with tank controls. But if you use the joystick, you get full 3D controls. So there was some footage earlier where Chris was running, I believe, in a way where he kind of like was zipping like kind of in different directions rather than like slowly rotating to switch directions. He just sort of snapped just like that. See how he just sort of snaps? They're trying to make it look smooth, but watch, like that right there. That's because they're using the joystick controls, which makes the gameplay look a little funny, but it does make the game control in a way that I think is more approachable for modern gamers. So just more reason to check out the remake first and see what you think. In fact, in the last video, I believe I said I would recommend Resident Evil 2 as your first Resident Evil, but maybe the remake of the first game could be a good idea. But with all that said, I still think what we're looking at here is an incredibly strong entry in the franchise, and certainly one I absolutely recommend. So I'd love to hear what you guys think below. Where does Resident Evil 1 Remake rank for you? Do you agree that it is the best remake of any game ever made? At the very least, do you believe it's one of the best? I think so. And where does it stand for you? Is this your favorite Resident Evil? Where does it land in the ranking for you? I'm super curious on how popular this one still remains and where it ranks for people in this day and age. Something I find really fun about the Resident Evil games is just going back and revisiting them and seeing like if I like them as much as I used to, or if I like them more than I used to. Because one of the games we'll be talking about in a few videos from now is Resident Evil 0. And that's one that I used to have really strong feelings about in a negative way, but I actually have really positive feelings about that now. A little foreshadowing for you there. But in any case, man, if you enjoyed this conversation and this discussion, please hit a like on the video. It really helps grow the channel. It helps draw more attention to the channel and bring new people in so that we can continue to have fun conversations in the comments. And if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, please consider subscribing. I'm loving watching the subscriber count go up. We really got a great pace going here. We're on the road to 100 subscribers. And man, I just love the company, and it's fun to get to hang out with you guys and chat about games and share my thoughts. And I just appreciate all the support, you guys. We've been doing really great here. And yeah, with that said, next up is going to be the remake of Resident Evil 2. And what's funny is I think I have to install that onto the PS5 so I can like keep up this style that I'm doing here. It's been uninstalled for a minute. Me and my wife replayed that a while back, beat it, and I got it off the hard drive to save some space. But in any case, thank you guys for watching. Be sure you tune in for the next episode of the Resident Evil discussion series, where we'll be talking about the Resident Evil 2 remake, or as some people like to call it, the reimagining. So appreciate you guys. See you in the next one. Take care.